What's up, guys, and welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I'm your host, Mitch Kaiser, coming to you in a new studio today, new setup, new office here. You might recognize it. You may recognize it by all the Notre Dame gear, the tailgate hat. If you are a listener of friend of the pod show, Mike Renner, this is his office, his home studio. I'm house sitting for Mike Renner this week. I'm also dog sitting. Riggins is over here laying in the other room. He might walk through the shot, I'm sure, while I'm recording, but he might have some takes to give on the pod. So there we go. But yeah, no, appreciate Mike letting me use his studio. I told him he has to come on next week to talk NFL with me. That's the deal for house sitting. But yeah, no, I'm sure you are not surprised at all the Notre Dame gear here from Mike. And so this is where he records Pushing the Pile on CBS Sports. Listen to that show. But yeah, we are back. I am back. Point After with Mitch Kaiser is back this week after a week off last week. Hope you guys enjoyed the 4th of July. Hope you had a happy 4th of July to you and your family. Hope you stayed cool out there. I am back today to recap the NBA free agency period and some of the transactions, kind of recap some of the trades that happened last week, some of the big free agents that are still in the market, kind of give some of my predictions of where they'll end up. Today is my free agency points after. Really quickly, I want to give you guys the summer schedule. So we are now in July, took last week off. Obviously, we're in the dog days of summer now after the NBA draft and NBA finals and whatnot. So we got about a month till football starts ramping up in the preseason, college football, week 0 and all that. I know that's coming down the pike, but 2 episodes per week up until August. So for the next month, it's going to be 2 episodes per week, 1 basketball and 1 football. Today is a basketball show. Basketball shows are going to be solo. Just me on all the basketball shows, and then football shows will always have a guest on there. So tomorrow is Dalton Wasserman from Preferred Walk-On, host of Preferred Walk-On. We're going to recap the college football summer and just the offseason of college football and kind of talk about some of the biggest storylines, biggest headlines going into August, heading into this college football season. I'm going to give Dalton some of my updated top 25 rankings and stuff like that. So Dalton's coming on tomorrow. Today will be solo. Again, just giving you guys my NBA free agency points after today. 2 episodes per week, 1 football, 1 basketball. So yeah, that's the summer schedule until August. And then there will be more episodes in August once football kind of ramps up again. But hopefully next week Renner is on when I'm back in my apartment and he's back here. So, all right. Without further ado, got my NBA free agency points after today. So I got 4 segments for you guys today, 4 segments, and get you out of here. Won't take too much of your time. First segment is going to go through the most improved teams. So some of the teams I thought just really attacked this offseason, and they improved not just in free agency, but also through the draft via trades. Whatever you name it, whether it's coaching, whether it's new additions. So then I'm gonna go over my favorite free agent signings. So just individual player signings, some of my favorite fits, some of the best signings I thought for per value, like contract wise, money wise, and then also like what they can contribute to the team. Top trades. So third segment is we're going to go through some of the top trades on the market and talk about what the teams got back, which team may have won the trade, which team may have lost it. Again, not doing winners and losers. You guys know my thoughts on winners and losers. We don't know the winners and losers until the next season happens because they haven't played yet and we haven't gotten to see these guys on their new respective teams yet. So I think it's silly to give it a grade or like winner loser already, but that doesn't mean we can't share our honest opinions and thoughts. So that's kind of the purpose of this. And then last segment is still available. So going to talk about some of the top players who are still available. There's a big one sitting out there who I know everyone is talking about. So we'll get to him. Don't worry. But all right, first segment, most improved teams. So I got 4 teams for you. For you today. 3 of them are in the East, only 1 in the West. So the West is kind of slacking in terms of like improvement. All these teams in the East are getting better. The East is kind of catching up to the West, which I had to take last year that the East was kind of just as good, and nobody's really talked about it for over the past few years, kind of not been paying attention. So if you have been paying attention, you realize that the East was just as good, and the East just won the finals. So what do they say now? Number one, okay, these aren't in order. This is just four teams I thought really improved. First team, Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, we got to talk about them. We're going to get into the specific details of the trade in a minute here in my trade segment, but they traded for Jalen Brown, and they got him from the Boston Celtics in a trade that I don't think anybody saw coming. Everyone was shocked when they saw it was Philly, especially after the first round exit they just handed Boston. They're one of their arch rivals, just kind of a wild turn of events from what happened from Brown finishing all NBA second team coming off the season he just had, averaging 28, 6 and 5 and top sixth in MVP voting, to being the whole best player without Tatum all year, him calling it his favorite season. And then now he never really requested out, but it just seemed like the Celtics thought their relationship was beyond repair, and irreparable damage was done, I guess. And they felt like they had to get off of his contract. They felt like they had to get off of Jalen Brown, and didn't feel like the right time. It felt rushed, felt rash. But either way, we'll talk about the specific details. It was for the Paul George deal and like what all Boston got back. But yeah, adding Jalen Brown right there is an improvement. Jalen Brown is a better player than Paul George. I think there are things that Paul George does that actually kind of help the Celtics more, which we're going to talk about that specific trade in the trade segment. But the Sixers got the best player in the trade. They got better. They got off of Paul George's awful contract, which is one of the worst contracts in the NBA. So they are the clear, winner of this trade. You got the best player. And this segment isn't just about that trade. This is talking about what all they did in the draft, free agency, trades, you name it. I thought the Dean Wayne signing was very good. They brought in a player who does not need the ball in his hands, who is a defensive specialist, who can kind of space the floor. He's only going to average like 5-6 points a game. The money he got was a little like 4 years, $39 million. But hey, that's the market for guys like that in today's NBA. The NBA contracts are absurd. So the money they're making, I always say it's not my money. So that's my thing whenever I'm talking about like handing these guys contracts that feel absurd. But yeah, Dean Wade. They also drafted LeBron Philon. That was one of my favorite picks of the entire NBA draft. You guys know that. That was on my top in my favorite 4 player fits and one of my biggest steals of the draft. Philon was my 7th overall player on my big board, and he went 22nd to the 76ers. That's a steal right there. He's going to be their backup point guard, and he is in prime position to get a good amount of minutes, probably 20 minutes a night as their backup point guard. And I'm not saying it's going to be a Dylan Harper role where he looks, like a clear just monster off the bench. It's not going to be that. He's not the prospect Harper's. But I'm just saying, if Philon lights it up in the backup point guard position for the Sixers, that's a whole steal right there. And that's a position they don't have to worry about moving forward. Because on draft night, it was kind of shocking that Philon fell that far. A lot of people were scratching their heads at it. And I think he's going to be a really good player. So that was part of it. And then lastly, Anthony Simons, which we'll get to my favorite signings here in a minute, but that's one of them. I thought they got Anthony Simons on an absolute steal in terms of what they added for that. So now you're looking at a starting lineup for the 76ers of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jalen Brown, Dean Wade, Joel Embiid. That's a championship title contender right there that can win the East. That can absolutely win the East if everyone is healthy. Now, I know that is a big if. However, you have to assume that Joel is not going to be available for every single playoff game. He might be available for some, but it is hard to envision him getting through 4 playoff rounds in April to June. I mean, like, watch the playoffs, watch the physicality of it. I can't imagine his body being able to play 20 straight games like that. So when it's like back-to-back, not back-to-backs, but every other night, stuff like that. So that's the biggest question mark for them. But in terms of sheer talent that they added and just to roster construction and what they lost contract wise, I mean, Brown's contract is huge, so they added another year to it. But Brown is objectively way better player than Paul George right now, and he's also like 7 years younger. Jalen Brown is 29, Paul George is 36. So you just got 7 years younger in a trade. There's a ranking that has Paul George's contract as the worst contract in the NBA. So like right there, you got out of that, and you got an All-NBA second team player in Jalen Brown. So Philadelphia 76ers, one of my most improved teams of the offseason. I think they're definitely a top 4 seed now and can compete with the best of the best in the East. I don't know if they're going to walk into New York and beat the Knicks right now, as currently constructed, but I really like their starting 5, and I'm interested to see the dynamic of Maxey and Brown, like the 1A, 1B, because Brown was kind of looking to be his own star. But if we're just talking about like sheer amount of points per game added, like volume added, value added, Jalen Brown, Dean Wade, Anthony Simons, LeBaron Philon, and they signed Huck Porty, who was getting minutes for the Knicks in the finals. Like literally played in game 4 and 5. Played a couple minutes a night, grabbed a couple rebounds. So Andre Drummond, they lost to the Knicks. So they kind of swapped backup bigs then, if you will. Huck Porty, who's a lot younger, thought that was an underrated contract too. So that could be their backup center, a guy who just played in the finals for the Philadelphia 76ers. So Philadelphia 76ers, one of my most improved teams of the offseason. All right, team number 2, Miami Heat. Now, Miami Heat goes without saying how much, when you add Giannis, you improve almost night and day from what you were before. But I don't think this vaults them into like title contention. I think like Miami still has some work to do around the margins of their roster, and like they need to add some spacing. They need to add some more guards still. But they've added a couple, and we'll talk about some of the signings they did. But the Giannis trade I was stunned by it. I couldn't believe Milwaukee ultimately like parted with him and was just like, we're fine with these spare parts, taking these spare parts back. But hey, that's their prerogative. Here's I was looking for full details of the trade. Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Jaku Kunis, and 3 first-round picks and a couple pick swaps and a second-round pick for Bobby Portis and Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's still like not enough. That's not even close. I don't care about the pick swaps. I don't care about all the players you just named. But yeah, the Heat are just improving right there. That is an incredible haul that they got for not that much. Again, I don't think any of those players that Milwaukee received are guys you can build around and feel good about. So when you get Giannis in the trade, it's almost one of those where you don't overthink it. Like Miami won that trade. Miami is a big improvement of the offseason so far. They signed Tim Hardaway Jr., who is one of my favorite value signings. We're going to get into that in my next segment here. Love Tim Hardaway Jr. I thought that was a good pickup. Bobby Portis is a solid backup center. This guy can still play. I don't think he's like, people are acting like that's like a throw-in. Like, oh, wow, you're getting a guy who averaged 14 and 6 and can shoot threes 40%. Like, it's pretty good. Is 6'10", like can defend, can switch. So I think that's solid. Again, the Heat's rotation is a little thin right now, but they did bring back Simone Fontecchio, who can be a lights-out three-point shooter in his time in his career. He had a good season for the Heat, coming off a good shooting season of 37% from deep. And they drafted Ryan Conwell, who is a was a NBA-ready, pro-ready, draft-eligible player out of Louisville, who had a down shooting year, but was a overall very good three-point shooter in his career in college. Almost 40% for his career in college. I think this guy is going to be pro ready and like fill a need in the rotation right away. Like I think he's going to play 15 minutes a night as a 6'4" shooting guard and space the floor lefty. I think Conwell's tough. I think he can play. He already was lighting it up in summer league the other day. So I thought that was a good pick for them. And they're not done. Again, Miami's not done. Their roster is way too thin still. Their guard depth is way too thin. Drew Smith and Davion Mitchell are the only point guards on their roster. I have heard rumors that they've looked at bringing Gabe Vincent back, who was a former Miami Heat culture guy who played in both finals for them a couple years ago, so wouldn't mind that. They'll backup point guard. And I've also heard rumors about Chris Middleton of reuniting with Giannis, so that could be a player out there who sign a vet minimum could still help them. But right now, anytime you add Giannis, we'll throw Bobby Portis in there, Tim Hardaway Jr., and then Ryan Condal. I think Giannis is obviously the belle of the ball there, but that is the big headliner. When you add Giannis, who in my opinion is one of the 4 best basketball players in the entire world, you're going to see a big improvement in the win-loss column if he's healthy. Now, that can be a big if because we haven't seen him finish the season healthy since 2021, which was 5 years ago. So that is a question mark. But when he is healthy, there's arguably nobody better in the league than Giannis. There's nobody physically more dominant. I'm curious to see their offense of what they run with him and Bam as the 4 and 5. It's a little clunky spacing-wise, but that's why they're filling it with guys like Davion Mitchell, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Andrew Wiggins, who shot 41% from 3 last year. Can really space the floor very effectively. So it's going to be a nightmare on defense for teams. Giannis and Bam down low are just going to cause havoc down low. They're going to block like 3 or 4 shots a game between the 2 of them. So that's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, the offense will be interesting. But again, when Giannis is healthy, this guy is a 30, 12, and 5 player. So it's like you're adding a 2-time former MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, world champion, finals MVP, and he's going to a franchise who already has an established culture. They literally call it Heat culture, and a top-tier GM in Pat Riley who knows what the hell he's doing, has won multiple championships there, has done this before. And yeah, just knows how to build a team. So the Heat are one of the most improved teams of the offseason. All right, 3. We'll go to the West team real quick. Utah Jazz. So Utah Jazz are one of the most improved teams of the offseason. Now this is more like this is from a win-loss perspective. Now I'm ranking these teams based on win-losses because like last year, the 76ers won 45 games. I expect them to win like mid-50s. Miami Heat won 43. I expect them to win, maybe 55. Utah Jazz won 22 games. I expect them to win like mid-30s. I don't think they'll be above 500, but I would say mid-30s. But I like a lot what the Jazz have done because they weren't willing to pay Walker Kessler, and they took more picks back, and they filled it with Jusuf Nurkic, who is a solid center, a good stopgap. I'm interested to see the dynamic of Markkanen, Jaren Jackson, and Nurkic of the 3, like the trio of like the 3, 4, 5. Because that's a big lineup, like 3 like potential 7-footers, but none of them are the best rebounder. But I wonder if like the 3 of them combined could like pick up the boards, pick up the slack on the boards, if you will. And then Darren Peterson and Keontae George is a really fun backcourt of guys who can both bring the ball up, both put the ball on the floor, both shoot it, light it up from 3, athletic guys. So, yeah, I really thought they improved. And they also made a couple of free agent signings that I thought were just like good marginal moves. Josh Okogie is a great defender. You need guard depth. You need guard defenders, point of attack defenders. Got him on a cheap 1-year deal. Jackson Hayes is a very solid backup center who I think can fill a need for them. Averages 8 and 4 off the bench. Solid, 1-year deal for him. And yeah, I think the Jazz are finally ready to start winning some games after Danny Ainge was just like, no, we're not going to win games for the last few years. So, all right, Toronto Raptors are my final most improved team now because they added Kawhi Leonard. And the haul they got for Kawhi Leonard, like they did not, I was stunned at what they had to give up, which was basically nothing. Like you didn't even have to lose RJ Barrett. I can't believe you didn't have to give up RJ Barrett in that trade. All you had to give up was Brandon Ingram, who doesn't even play in the meaningful games. and Grady Dick and a couple picks. I definitely would have done that if I was like a team like who just was looking for that final piece and like, like AKA the Detroit Pistons could have used Kawhi Leonard, but yeah. So either way, Raptors had Kawhi Leonard. Thought they also had a really good draft in Allen Graves. That's a big wing, shooting wing they can play right there off the bench who can space the floor, shot 40% from deep. So, yeah, Toronto Raptors, here's the thing. They're definitely going to be better. Like, Kawhi Leonard certainly improves your ceiling and, like raises both. It raises your floor and ceiling, of course. They will be a 50-win team. Like, Scotty Barnes is taking that next step. You retain Barrett, who I think I've been on record saying is a very good player, is a winning player. And Colin Murray-Boyle's entering year 2, who's probably going to be sixth man, maybe sixth man of the year role off the bench for them. So that's going to be a fun one. Here's my fear. Kawhi has won more playoff series in Toronto than he did in LA, and that was one season. He won 4 playoff series in Toronto, and he won 2 since then in Los Angeles for the Clippers. So, like, if you're judging this based on the Kawhi today, it's hard to trust that he's going to be there when it matters most. And I know he's done it in years past, but that was almost a decade ago. That was 2019 when he won for the Raptors then. I don't think this is going to be the same song and dance, the same, like, ride off into the sunset 1-year run. But they will be better. Like, again, they won 46 games. I definitely see the Raptors winning like 55, 56. Like, I do think they're going to be one of the top 5 seeds again. Probably top 3. But Kawhi has not been available in the playoffs. And he also just played in the Golden State play-in game that they lost. So that's another thing that I'm a little worried about. So that's all I'm saying. But yeah, overall, Raptors still really good. I thought they had a very good offseason. And yeah, the Kawhi Leonard trade was great move because they didn't have to give up much at all. I question how much he's going to play at the end and if it ultimately like moves the needle for like their playoff hopes, because he just hasn't been available in the playoffs in recent years. But regular season, of course, they're gonna win more games because of it. So, all right, moving on to my next segment, best signings. So, just gonna give you guys 6 signings now that I liked. These aren't like superstars or like even some of these guys aren't even starters. A lot of these guys are gonna come off the bench for their teams, and that's kind of what free agency becomes. It's weird. Like, you get to a point where free agency for the superstars and all-stars doesn't really exist. Like, it all happens via trades and like extensions or like a guy asking out, requesting for a trade or something. So these were my favorite signings of just UFAs, unrestricted free agents who can go anywhere and are just helpful players, rotation players who are going to help fill a need and help a team win next year, whether they're going to a playoff team, whether they're going to a team where they can take on a bigger role, bigger minutes. So yeah, here's 6 signings I really liked and that I think will work out like price-wise, contract-wise, and like help the team in the long run. First signing was Kelly Oubre to the Pacers for 2 years, $17 million. That is $9 million, less than $9 million per on the deal. Kelly Oubre is a dog, man. This guy is a gamer. This guy's a winner. This guy has averaged like 15 a game, like 3 years in a row for Philly, or like 2 years in a row for Philly, putting up good numbers everywhere he goes. Dog defender, brings it defensively. I feel like he's always guarding the other team's best player. He's going to have to be a willing passer in Rick Carlisle's system, and I think he will be for Rick Carlisle, if that makes sense. So he has a tendency to kind of, get tunnel vision in the basket, but he can be a willing passer in the right offense and the right system. He was much more of a willing passer on Philadelphia than he was in Charlotte, rightfully so, and I think he's going to fit the Pacers offense really well, and I think he's going to be the perfect 6th man for them because they kind of don't have that guy off the bench who can create his own shot and just kind of go create offense one-on-one and get a bucket, if you will. He has been that guy for the Sixers for the past few years, but he's been doing it on the starting lineup. Pacers have their starting five locked and loaded, ready to go. Oubre is going to fill the perfect wing role off the bench where he can play some defense and just kind of be a spark plug, just kind of get shots up. I think that's a great signing for Indiana. And it wouldn't shock me if he averaged like 13 a game for them. So they needed a guy like this off the bench. Don't forget about the Pacers. That's all I'm telling people. Don't sleep on the Pacers. Halliburton's going to be back. They're the only team who has beaten the Knicks in the past 3 years. That is a fact. Look it up. They're the only team who's beaten the Knicks. So if they're fully healthy again, it wouldn't shock me if the Pacers came back out of the East. So, all right. Next signing, everyone's going to make fun of me for saying this, but you guys know I love this player. Tobias Harris to the Spurs on a 2-year, $31 million deal, $15 million per. First of all, this guy's gotten a bag in his whole career. This guy's gotten paid. I just saw a stat that he has made $2 million less than Tom Brady earned in his NFL playing career. So that's just insane and shows the amount of money that NBA contracts are, which is just bananas compared to every other sports league. I don't know how it's like. Baseball's like that too, though. Baseball contracts are absurd. But Tobias Harris to the Spurs is the perfect deal, the perfect signing, the perfect player for what they needed, for what they just needed in the playoffs. They probably would have won the finals had they had a guy like him at the 4 to kind of settle everyone down, calm the offense, get everyone in their spots late in the shot clock when you need a bucket, can back to the basket, can dribble down, pull up post game. Tobias meant so much to the Pistons. I mean, you guys have heard me say it a couple times on this show. I was hoping, he would retire there. I thought he meant a lot for them, like in the locker room, veteran leadership, clubhouse wise, whatever. When Tobias got to Detroit, they were a 14-win team, and in one season, he helped them win 30 more games. So, that wasn't on accident. He's an absolute competitor, winner, gamer, whatever you want to say. He's never going to light it up in any one category. Tobias Harris is just that player who is literally solid at everything, but not great at one individual thing. But that gets you paid in the NBA, and that gets you minutes, and that gets you wins. So guy's won everywhere he's gone. The guy has been a solid veteran, a good guy, good leader. You hear people rave about his personality off the court. Everywhere he's gone, you hear that. And the Spurs are getting a good one. Again, I'm sad Detroit's losing him. Guy meant a lot for the locker room, meant a lot leading Cade past 2 years for the Pistons turnaround, and now he's doing it in San Antonio. And it's going to pain me to see him thriving in San Antonio, because I really think if they would have had him, and I'm not bashing Champagnie. You guys, I love Julian Champagnie. I genuinely wonder if they bump Champagnie down to the 3 and bring Vassell off the bench and start Tobias, because I think you got to start Tobias at the 4. I think he's the perfect power forward for what San Antonio needs. Just a veteran guy who's a switchable defender, versatile wing, 6'8", power forward, can defend multiple positions. Can dribble the ball if he needs to, can run the offense if everything breaks down, because San Antonio didn't have that guy in the finals this year. That was kind of the one weakness. When the going got tough in the late minutes of the game, that was when everything broke down and, wasn't great. So Tobias could be that savvy vet who could calm the nerves and calm everyone down late in the game. So speaking of Tobias Harris, the team that didn't re-sign him, it's funny. I actually like where both teams ended up in their respective directions, because I like the player that the Pistons opted to sign instead of Tobias. That is John Collins. Now, the money in this contract is a little higher, but the Pistons cap space is pretty clean, pretty cleared out, so it's not really a big deal when you have cap space. It doesn't matter really. It's more just the fitting guys into the MLE or which is the mid-level exception. So John Collins got 3 years, $51 million, which is $17 million per from the Detroit Pistons. Thought it was a good contract. Again, the money's fine. I always say it's not my money, so I don't care what you pay these guys. He fills the exact role that the Pistons needed. They have a glaring hole at power forward with Tobias gone now off to San Antonio. But I actually like John Collins' fit on the Pistons better than I did Tobias on the Pistons, if that makes sense. Plus, he's 5 years younger. So Tobias turning 34. John Collins is 29. So it fits the timeline a little better. He's kind of more, I mean, I wouldn't say he's, he is in his prime. John Collins has been in his prime for about 5 seasons now since the Hawks playoff run, and solid player. He's a fine player. He's a career 16-8, 55% shooter, elite finisher around the rim. And in recent years, he has developed a 3-ball. He's not a high volume 3-point shooter, but on 3 attempts per game, he's hitting about 40%. In the past few seasons, he's hitting 40% from deep, 37 over his career. So that's an upgrade from Tobias, who is a lower 3-point shooter. Same volume of attempts, but Collins has a way higher clip than Tobias has over the past few seasons. So I also think he's a better lob threat, way more athletic, way more of a lob threat for Cade. So I think he fits Cade Cunningham's style better and how Cade likes to play in the offense and operate the floor. So that's another crazy athletic lob threat for Cade to throw dunks to, alley-oops to. So I thought both players landed in a great destination, a great spot for what both teams needed. I think bringing back Tobias to Detroit would have been just okay, are we just run it back with them a year older? We got 5 years younger in the process, so I think that was solid for the Pistons to do. And I think the upside with Collins is a little higher. He's coming off a season where he had a reduced role on the Clippers and averaged 13 and 5, which were career lows. However, his efficiency was at one of the career highs, 55% field goal percentage. So I'm not worried at all about him regressing or the stats. I think Collins is going to have a great season for the Pistons. I think he's going to play 30 minutes a night and be the starting power forward for as many games as he's available for and healthy for. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he put up a 15-7 type of season on the Pistons, or even better than that. So I thought it was a good signing. I think it helps. Again, it's kind of one of those B play. It's not an A- B+ type of free agent. He's more like a B. But I think I think it's as far as those players that were available go, this was one of the best players that was out there for the money. So, all right, next contract. These are some smaller scale contracts, but these are still good players. Some of the more value signings around the edges of teams. Anfernee Simons. So this goes into Philadelphia 76ers offseason. So this is part of it. The Anfernee Simons deal for 2 years for $12 million, that is wildly low for a player of his caliber. Am I forgetting that? Are we forgetting that Simons averaged 20 a game 2 years ago in Portland for multiple seasons on end? And I know that was in Portland when they were just losing games, wasting away seasons, but this guy's a bucket. This guy's a shooter. This guy is it's hard to score 15 a game on a decent efficiency, 44% from the field, 39% from deep. He's the perfect guard to come off the bench for the 76ers. And I remember when the Celtics traded him away last summer or last winter for Vucevic, I was stunned by that because I thought Simons was playing a great role for them off the bench. So I was confused when they let him go. I think this is exactly what Philadelphia needs, and now he gets with former teammate Jalen Brown. So 2 former Celtics joining forces. But 2 years, $12 million is a bargain. I mean, that's a steal for a guy like Simons. You're seeing players get $20 million per year who are unplayable, and Simons will come off the bench and light it up for 16 a night. So, yeah, and the absolutely needed it. The Sixers did. They needed that signing because Phylon was the only playable guard off the bench. So now you got a platoon of Phylon and Simons who can both handle the ball. That's part of the reason why the 76ers were one of the biggest, most improved teams of the offseason. So when I saw that contract, I thought it was $12 million per year. I thought it was 1 year, $12 million per year. Instead, it's 2 years for $6 million per year. That's a bargain, man. So I don't know why some team didn't want to hand Simons more than that, because I would have taken him on the Pistons. You can pair him next to Cade. Maybe defensively he'd be a nightmare, but bring him off the bench. But anyway, all right. Next player, Tim Hardaway Jr., Miami Heat, signed 1 year, $6 million deal for Miami, going to where his dad played. Tim Hardaway Sr., who just changed his stance on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s number. So apparently Jr. asked Sr. if he could wear his number 10, the Hall of Fame retired number. And Tim Sr. said no at first, but I just read a report this morning that apparently Tim Sr. changed his mind and is now saying yes to him. So I thought that was funny. I don't know if any of that is true or not, but I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to wear his dad's number for Miami Heat, which was number 10, which I think that's cool. I thought that was pretty cool. I like legacy stories in the NBA like that. I like father-son stories in athletes in sports and stuff like that. I always think that's cool. So, and Hardaway Jr.'s had a really good career, man. The guy is an elite shooter, elite marksman from the three-point line. So, and it's exactly what the Miami Heat needed. That is literally the perfect player. I can't believe he accepted $6 million coming off a Sixth Man of the Year candidacy season for the Nuggets, where he had shot a career high 41% from three. This guy's coming off a career year and just accepted almost a pay cut. I mean, I know he was only making like $4 million in Denver, but I'm surprised he just accepted $1 million or 1 year, $6 million. But I think it's about more than the money for this guy. I think he wants to go win a championship. I think he's going ring chasing, and I think he wants to play where his dad played. I think that's cool too. I would start him at the 2. I would waste no time starting like Pelle Larsson or worrying about like Drew Smith or guys like that. I would literally start Hardaway at the 2 because he spaces the floor like no one's business. He's not going to need the ball in his hands. He can just literally camp in the corner. He's great at that. And he helps what Giannis needs. That's exactly what Giannis needs, is just surround the floor with three-point shooters and let him go to work. And Davion Mitchell is the other guard defender who's an elite ball stopper, so you don't have to worry about Tim Hardaway's defense. You don't have to worry about Hardaway Jr. being a cone on defense because you got Mitchell. You got Davion Mitchell taking the point of attack, taking the other team's best player. So that right there is who so yeah, that is part of why Miami was also one of my most improved teams of the offseason. Love the Tim Hardaway Jr. signing. Thought it was one of the best value signings of the year. And then last signing, another former Piston, man. Andre Drummond, man. That guy's one of my favorite players ever. One of the best rebounders I've ever seen. One of the best offensive rebounders I've ever seen. Filling the Mitchell Robinson role now on the New York Knicks. So going from Philly to New York, 1 year, $4 million. This is a great signing. I'm happy for Drummond. Would love to see him get a ring someday, wherever it is. Would love to see him come back and retire in Detroit someday. But Andre Drummond is the type of player that everyone will like make fun of on Twitter and like act like he's bad. And like you will go back and look at his stats, and it is like the guy averaged like 17 rebounds per game for like multiple seasons on end, 15 points per game. Like there were so many seasons where he was like 16 and 16 in Detroit and just grabbing like 10 defensive rebounds, like 6 offensive rebounds per night, like just insane numbers. At his peak, he's the best rebounder I've ever seen. I've said that before. So I like to see that this guy's still producing in the NBA and still producing on winning teams and helping teams get to the playoffs. He's always a fan favorite. Everywhere he goes, he's a fan favorite. He's a fun locker room guy. Players love him. You see him on podcasts. He always talks about Detroit. Appreciate Drummond always talking about the love he has for the city of Detroit. So yeah, I thought this was a good sign by the Knicks, and I think the Knicks fans will absolutely love Drummond. And if he keeps hitting corner threes, he's been working on that corner three, man. If that shot keeps coming around and working, you might really have something there that other teams have to guard. So would be interesting. But yeah. All right, those are my favorite signings of free agency. That is all I got on that. Next segment, we're going to just talk briefly on some of the top trades. So going to go through the top trades here. Let's see if I can get the official details for each trade. Top 3 trades of the offseason. So we all know the biggest trade well, we won't talk about the Giannis trade. We already kind of spent enough time on that. I've beat it into the ground and how I still would not have done it if I were Milwaukee, and I would have just found a way to, get Giannis to stay, whatever it looked like, but oh well. Next trade was the Paul George for Jalen Brown trade. So I didn't give you guys the official details. Here those are. So Jalen Brown going from the Celtics to the 76ers for Paul George and a 2028 first-round pick, 2031 first-round pick, unprotected, and 2 second-round picks. So this was literally an offload of Paul George's contract, and you somehow just got Jalen Brown out of it too. So, it's like an A+ for Philly. Now, I'm not freaking out for Boston as much as everyone in the media is, or just people you'll see on Twitter or whatever. I don't think this is a trade where it's oh my God, what was he doing? What was Brad thinking? I think everyone needs to. I've had a couple days to kind of dig into this trade and the details and kind of some advanced analytics. And I know, Jalen Brown hates analytics. We won't get into it too much here, but I actually think there are things that Paul George brings to the Celtics that are better than what Jalen Brown was offering for what they needed. Now, the $60 million contract was ultimately the reason why they're parting ways. I firmly believe it comes down to the contract, and he also must have said something that kind of riled up Tatum, because it didn't sound like they liked the 1A, 1B comment. I don't know. But it sounded like everyone knew this was Tatum's team outside of Boston. I'm saying, us. Tatum's the better player, so you're getting an upgrade in Tatum over Brown. And now you have Paul George. And now you have Mitchell Robinson, who you also added, and you kept Derek White along with Peyton Pritchard and all the guys that you turned down Giannis for, like Baylor Shireman and Hugo Gonzalez. And I'm just saying, anyone who thinks Boston's going to regress a ton is not paying attention. They're not. Boston's going to be fine. The Celtics, they said that last year and they won 56 games. They might not win 56 games, but it wouldn't shock me if they won 55 or 54 or 53. And it wouldn't shock me if they won more. So that's all I'm saying. Going from Brown to essentially Tatum is an upgrade. And then you're getting Mitchell Robinson, who is an upgrade over Luka Garza. Not, I still think Keita will start at center. They re-signed Keita and not brought Vucevic back. But you kept Hauser. I wonder if he'll still be on the opening night roster, but you kept Hauser, who is a proven shooter, proven commodity in the playoffs. And you went from Brown to Tatum, and you just somehow added Paul George, who role player Paul George is an elite role player. He's not elite for $56 million, like what they're paying him. But if you just need him to camp in the corner, defend wings, hit threes, shoot, spot up, Paul George can absolutely do that and do a really effective job of it, averaging 17, 5, and 3 on 40% three-point shooting. So all I'm saying is I don't think this was as big of a catastrophic trade for the Celtics as people think. I know it's one of those where you're losing an icon like Jalen Brown, so Celtics fans, that's going to suck and that one's going to sting. You're losing a finals MVP and a guy who played there for 10 years. So that's part's so sad, and the human element of it sucks. But the basketball element, I don't think the on-court difference is going to be all that much, truly. And I honestly think there's a world where the Celtics win just as many games next year. So don't worry too much, Celtics fans. I know it stings, but you still got Tatum. And you also still won a title in 2024, less than 3 years ago. So don't forget that. Another trade that I have not really talked about on this show, the LaMelo Ball trade. We'll just call it the LaMelo Ball trade. So the Hornets sent LaMelo Ball to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Naz Reid and a 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 3 second-round picks. along with Josh Green. For wing player Josh Green was in that trade from the Hornets to the Timberwolves. I thought this was a great trade for the Hornets. I totally understood why they did it. I think they are committed to getting worse before they get better, and I think they are totally headed in a new direction for the franchise, and I totally understand why, and I agree with it. I did not understand this for the Timberwolves. I don't agree with it. I did not like it. I think this is going to set them back. I don't think this is going to make Anthony Edwards happy like they think. They downsized a ton, and they lost all the power forwards on the roster. So you lost Naz Reid, who is a beloved icon in Minnesota, a fan favorite, one of the most beloved Timberwolves of all time. And you replaced him with LaMelo Ball, who is known as an unserious basketball player, but a very popular basketball player among fans. So maybe that replaces Naz Reid's role in the fan community, but I'm just talking purely basketball with this. I don't know if it's going to work out. I'm worried this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of the Ant asking out in a couple years, because there's people already throwing out those rumors. So, and if they don't get over the hump, like if this trade doesn't work and it really vaults Minnesota to like the tier of the Thunder and Spurs, that's where you start to worry about Anthony Edwards' happiness, and is he ultimately going to ask out of Minnesota? So I just wanted to bring up that trade because I didn't like it for either team really, but I understood why the Hornets did it. I don't think the Hornets will win as many games next year, but I think their franchise is going to be better off because of it in the long run. So, all right, last trade I wanted to talk about was the Lakers Utah Jazz trade, the Walker Kessler deal. So Lakers landed Walker Kessler from the Jazz in a sign-in trade where they gave him, I believe it was 4 years, $130 million or $140 million, either way. Money wasn't too bad, but the money was fine. The money, like, I understand a center, that's the open market, that's what he's going to get. But they gave up unprotected first-round picks in 2031 and 2033 and first-round pick swaps in 2028 and 2030. Now, this is a huge gamble that the Lakers just made on a guy who does not play basketball. He has played 63 games in 2 seasons, 63 in 2 years, 5 games, played 5 games in last season. And they just paid him a bag and traded all their draft capital for him. I just think that's too much. I think you're risking too much when you had a better team last year. And we're not even going to talk about the signings they made, because I thought all of them were pretty bad and overpaid, and I think their roster is pretty bad, if I'm being honest. So I would have just brought Marcus Smart back, Rui Hachimura back, LeBron James, the best basketball player ever, back, if you guys forgot about him, and figured out a center elsewhere, because I think you can makeshift a center when you have guys like that. But this is what Luka wanted. Luka wanted a center. The Lakers wanted a center. Rob Pelinka wanted a center, and they found their guy. They got their guy. They believe in the 5 games that Walker Kessler played last season, where he averaged 14, 10, and 3 and blocked 2 shots per game. He is an elite rim protector. I'm not going to act like Walker Kessler's not good. I do think he's going to be a very good center. I'm just saying this is all they have in the chamber now. They're empty. So, like, this was the Lakers' last move to get better around Luka and Reeves, who is your top 2 core for the next 5 years for the long haul. So if this doesn't work with Kessler, like if he's not an all-star and he doesn't pay off, then it's not going to be great. It's not going to look good in a couple of years for Luka and the Lakers. And I don't know how many wins it's going to lead to on the court, and if he's even going to be available to play. They just traded DeAndre Ayton, so they got rid of him, got off of his contract to the Wizards, but they don't have other centers on the roster. I don't think they have another center on the roster right now. So putting a lot of eggs in Walker Kessler's basket, where he doesn't play many basketball games. So guys who get hurt a lot, guys with injuries always scare me. So that's just my word. But all right. Last segment here, then I'll get you guys out of here. Still available. So this is called Still Available segment here. There's one guy just sitting there, who we all know. You may have heard of him. His name is LeBron James. So Comment below. First of all, I want to see you guys comment below where you think he will go, where you think he should play. What's your favorite team fit for LeBron? It's funny. So I couldn't find this video, but I was trying to find it on my Snapchat, which I don't have Snapchat anymore. I deleted Snapchat a couple years ago, but I had an old memories bank of a video I recorded when LeBron left Cleveland in 2018 and went to LA. And I was such a jerk. I was such a little a-hole about it, like just recording, like, yeah, going crazy, like part, like, yeah, suck it, Cleveland, like you guys are gonna suck, like, haha, like, and maybe I've just grown soft in my old age now, 8 years later, but I want him to go back to Cleveland, man. The nostalgia in me, like, wants to see him play his final year in Cleveland. I think it would be a really cool storybook ending. I'm hearing people talk about the basketball reasons and like the like on-court fit and the clunky fit. I don't care about that with LeBron for his final year, and I don't think anyone else should either. And I said a statement a couple weeks ago, and Isaiah Thomas said this, and that the secret to basketball is that it's not about basketball. And then if we really believe that and it's not about basketball, LeBron has to go back to Cleveland because that is where he belongs. That is his home. That is where he started. And I think that's where he's happiest. And we've seen the videos of him online. We've seen everybody's looking on the rumor mill, like the video of him at a Cleveland nightclub, like dancing, like looking all happy. Like, I just think it would be really cool if he went to Cleveland. So I know that's my arch nemesis. They just knocked my team out of the playoffs to the Pistons, and I couldn't wait for him to leave. Like I said, I've grown soft in my old age now. I think it would be really cool, LeBron, if you went home and played your final year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I genuinely think you guys would be a pretty good team. I've heard people talk about the basketball fit, but I think the starting five of Harden, Mitchell, LeBron, Mobley, and Allen is like a pretty dang good one, honestly. Like maybe not defensively, but you'll figure it out elsewhere. But you're not worried about that right now. You know, if it's not about basketball, maybe they'll find a way to all come together and win a finals. You know, when you have a guy like LeBron, he instantly makes your team so much better. And that's why I'm stunned that the Lakers just didn't want to bring him back. So I hope he goes to Cleveland, but comment below where you think he will go, where you think he should go. A couple others in the mix are, Philadelphia, Miami, talked about reuniting with Pat Riley down in Miami, going with Giannis. Golden State, Steph Curry's, the Warriors have said they're leaving a roster spot open for him. Minnesota is like a dark horse. I don't really see that one, but he's talked about playing with Ant. And then Denver, it sounds like Denver is the last one that's up in the air. How Nikola Jokic is recruiting LeBron. So that's what they're talking about too. But I'm hoping for Cleveland. I think it would be cool if he went back. So let me know where you think he's going to go and comment below. So, all right. The last big player still available here, this is an RFA, restricted free agency, which is kind of a weird situation in sports and basketball. Jalen Duren. So the Pistons starting center, all-star starting center, Jalen Duren, All-NBA second team, I believe, All-NBA third team. Either way, made All-NBA, averaged 19, 10, 2 in the regular season, and then really regressed in the playoffs, had a rough postseason where he only averaged 10 and 8, literally got cut in half production-wise, points per game. So it was a rough playoffs for Duren, and he is now in a contract war with the Pistons GM, Trajan Langdon, who it sounds like the Pistons are refusing to not go above $35 million, which I would not either. I've talked about paying centers. It's like paying running backs to me. I just would stay away from paying your center that top dollar, maxing out centers. I don't think it's worth it. Duren's camp wants 45 to 50 million because he made All-NBA, he got the awards, he got the incentives, he did everything he was asked to do, but struggled in the playoffs. So that's kind of the war. It's kind of like a staring contest right now. And from everything I know, again, my sources are the same sources you guys have on Twitter, but I'm hearing that the Pistons don't want to offer more than 35 million, and Duren's camp wants 45 million. And they're not really close in the negotiations. And it's starting to get a little dicey, it sounds like. A contract has not been signed, and it remains to be seen whether Duren is going to be on the Pistons next season or not. I think he will be because he doesn't really have many remaining options and he's kind of out of choices and there's not any teams with cap space left. He's trying to facilitate a sign and trade right now. So if he can get one team to agree to a sign and trade where Detroit then has to obviously agree to that trade, but Duren doesn't have much leverage right now, and Detroit has all the leverage. So me as a Pistons fan, I'm not worried right now because I think all the like I just said, I think all the leverage is on the Pistons side, and I think they're going to be fine. And I think Trajan Langdon has handled this really well, to be honest, and kind of like looked Duren in the face and said, "Yo, if you believe you're worth that, go out and test your market. And if a team comes back to you with that contract, we'll match it." He said he would match any offer sheet. A team just hasn't offered one. So Duren, I think, needs to understand like he's not going to get more than what ultimately the Pistons decide to pay him. And I think he probably needs to come to an arrangement, come to terms with his agent and be like, yo, we're risking losing a lot of money here if we take the qualifying offer and not take this $35 million. So I think it will get resolved and Detroit will ultimately get their center back Duren, but I'm starting to get a little worried. I can't lie, but we'll see. But yeah, I think we'll have a resolution of that in the next few days. So, all right. Last thing, got a couple back-end rotation guys here. A couple players still available here. Here are just 5 names on the open market. Obviously, LeBron and Duren are the only like stars remaining. Duren, all-star coming off an all-star season, but a couple back-end rotation guys here. So Jonathan Kuminga is actually more of like kind of the only up-and-coming riser of this group, I would say. I think he's only like 24 years old still. And coming off a solid season of production where he averaged like 13-5 for the Hawks and really like found a groove and found a spot in their rotation. But they ultimately just didn't have the money to retain him. So the Lakers have talked about signing Kuminga. I do wonder how much cap space they have left, but that could fill the need they have at power forward. Any teams with holes at the power forward could use a guy like Kuminga. If he could ever develop a three-point shot, he could be a really good offensive player, but right now he's kind of just like a score bench guy, just kind of like create his own shot, not bring much else to the table. So next guy is Chris Middleton. Mentioned him a little bit with the Heat, possibly reuniting with Giannis. I think that would be a solid move for the Heat. They need a veteran shooter. They need guard depth, like I said. 6'7" wing guard / smaller shooting guard / small forward, Chris Middleton. He's not the shooter he once was back in Milwaukee, but he can still hit a three every now and then. Was 36% from deep last year and averaged 10, 3, and 2. And more of an offensive creator, like really good in the pick and roll. And that was him and Giannis's game back in Milwaukee. I don't think we'll see that in Miami, but if the Heat do get Middleton, that is a very solid veteran to bring off the bench for them. Next would be Bradley Beal, another guy I've heard linked to the Heat, who turned down his player option, which was interesting on the Clippers because I didn't like coming off a season-ending injury. I thought he would just pick up his player option, but I wasn't sure if there'd be any market for him. But apparently, the Heat have already talked to Bradley Beal, and the guy was a career 20-point scorer and an elite scorer. So there's still meat on the bone there. No team has been able to get like playoff success out of Bradley Beal, but if he goes to Miami and they're in a big series with Giannis, they might need him. So we'll find out. Maybe one of Middleton or Beal go there. Next would be Gary Trent Jr. Coming off a rough season, but I still believe Gary Trent is an NBA player and still a rotation guy in this league. He was coming off his like a really good shooting season the year prior for Milwaukee, and then just could not hit a shot this past season. I believe he shot like 37% from the floor, 36% from deep, only averaged 8 points a game, and was really bad plus-minus wise, and almost got out of the rotation and was really good for Milwaukee a year prior. So I wonder what his market looks like. I could see him taking like a prove-it deal, like a one-year contract, and then like having like another good season, because this guy had a couple good seasons for like the Raptors in Portland a few years ago where he was scoring like 16, 17 a game. So there's definitely an NBA player in there somewhere, maybe just not a starting two guard anymore. And then last player is Bruce Brown. So this was a guy on the Nuggets, kind of a do-it-all wing, off the bench guy. Bruce Brown is one of those players who's kind of gone back and forth from being like overrated to now being underrated. And I do think there are things he does on an NBA court that are very helpful, like guarding another team's best player, some secondary ball handling, a little bit of creation. He's not really a shooter, but he is a big-time athlete and big-time defender. So there are teams that need that. The Nuggets needed that. He's the perfect role player to play alongside Jokic. I do wonder if they ultimately bring him back because he's kind of been best served in Denver both times, but still a productive NBA player, just not really going to like wow you in anything, but much needed role player for certain teams. So, all right, that is all I got for you guys today. Appreciate you listening to my NBA free agency points after. Let me know some of your favorite signings of the offseason. Comment below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Point After with Mitch Kaiser, and I will be back tomorrow night with Dalton Wasserman up here. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.